All right, that's our Chicago Sports Minute. Let's close out the show. It's our favorite part of the day, our favorite segment. It is our big board. And this week, we're doing a fun big board, a very fun big board. It's the big board of bad Bears quarterbacks. And we've got a lot to pick from.
We got literally every quarterback in Bears history. And we'll get to the honor. Maybe we should just do the honorable mentions now.
Sure.
The honorable mention is every other quarterback that's not on our list. That's in Bears history.
Except Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler. I'm not going to throw no shame on him. That's my boy.
Okay. All right. Blake, you want to start it off?
Yeah, I'll start it off here. Number 3 for me, I got the giraffe, the guy that kicked off the Ryan Pace era, kind of. I think his second year in Ryan Pace era. That's Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon got overpaid, brought in to start 2-3 games he started for the Bears? Three. And then they cut him after the season. So, Mike Glennon was bad. We even saw this year the Bears got to play him again when he played for Jacksonville. He was so bad that the Jags were like, let's put this guy in because there is no chance that we're winning with this guy. That was the ultimate tank move. So Mike Glennon, the fact that he played for the Bears is poetic, and he just kind of sums up years and years in badness. Just another name on the list.
Hey, Gardner Minshew, another option for the Bears, just to put that out there. Okay, my number 3 is Caleb Haney. I don't know why, dude. After he came in the NFC Championship game when the Bears lost, I don't know why, but I was like, oh, the Bears are in good hands. Like, I actually think this dude's all right. Yeah, he was just terrible. So he's number 3 for me. And then for number 2 for me is Mike Glennon. That was just like a waste of money, a waste of I think they traded for him.
No, they signed him as a free agent.
Yeah, free agent. I remember he had an insane year, or not insane, but he had a really good year in Tampa Bay, and they thought he could replicate that in freezing cold Chicago. And that didn't work out. So Mike Glennon's my number 2.
Yeah, Mike Glennon has to be on the list there, so it's a
good pick. He's
got to be. My number 2 here is this is actually a guy I didn't really know a whole lot about until a couple of weeks ago when my dad brought him up to me, and that is Jack Concannon. And this guy is on the list of Bears quarterbacks who they traded for, who was a former first-round pick. So he's drafted by the Eagles in the second round, but the 16th overall. Not that many teams then. So the Bears traded for him, brought him in. Horrible. This is a guy that retired with 36 career touchdowns, 63 career interceptions. That is just horrible. With the Bears, his best season, he had 16 touchdowns, 18 picks. Other than that, he never threw more than 6 touchdowns in a season. Just the epitome of bad Bears quarterbacks here. But my favorite thing about him is that according to his Wikipedia page, I'm just going to read this here to you guys. In March 1981, Concannon was arrested on charges that he delivered a kilogram of cocaine to an undercover drug agent in Schaumburg, Illinois, a suburb northwest of Chicago. For those of you guys who haven't listened to me talk about it before, Schaumburg's where I live. So I had to give him a shout out. Got arrested for dealing cocaine to those shady Schaumburg cops. They were undercover. I guess that's not really shady, but he was acquitted of the charge. He was entrapped because he was in desperate financial straits. And here is his quote that he said after, apparently, this is on his Wikipedia page, so take it for what you will. Seldom have I been confronted with a situation where a man has displayed such woeful lack of judgment. Or this is the judge talking about Concannon. I apologize. So let me run this back. Seldom have I been confronted with a situation where a man has displayed such woeful lack of good judgment, particularly when that person has been in the limelight and has been supposedly a leader of men. So Jack Concannon, NFL career didn't go too good. So you know what? He became a mule in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is probably the worst place in America to be a drug mule.
Yeah.
So Jack Concannon, number 2, worst Bears quarterback of all time.
That's pretty tough. Okay, my number 1. My number 1 is Cade McCown, first-round draft pick, traded over to the Bears in the early 2000s or 1999, somewhere around there, and he just sucked. He was so terrible.
Not to mention he was a dick, too, from everything that I've heard.
I don't even well, go ahead. What have you heard?
I just heard that he was a dickhead in the locker room. Like, he wasn't very well-liked by players. Let me pull up his Wikipedia page.
And you suck. Like, that's a double. Like, get the hell out of here.
Let's see. I'm not seeing much here. Wikipedia, my site Wikipedia does not have a whole lot about his dickheadedness, but
sources
through the grapevine, I have heard that he was just not an enjoyable guy to be around. If you're the 8th overall pick and you only spend 2 years with the team that drafts you, clearly not very good.
Yeah, 100%. Cade McCown, number 1 for me on my big board of bad Bears quarterbacks. Blake, number 1.
Number 1, I got a guy that was on your list at number 3. I got Caleb Haney. And man, Caleb Haney, like this runs deep with me because let me start it. Let me break it down for you. So, a person who shall be that should remain nameless here. It was an ex-friend of my mom, and he used to tell me all the time in preseason that the Bears need to start Caleb Haney over Jay Cutler. Used to tell me all the time that Caleb Haney was the better option. He was the better option, whatever. Then the NFC Championship rolls around, and Caleb Haney has the opportunity to bring the Bears back and be a hero forever by bringing the Bears to the Super Bowl. Didn't play horrible, not great. Threw 2 picks. The one to BJ Raji was exceptionally bad, but whatever. Okay, so then that just made his voice way louder, where he's like, "Oh, he's better than Cutler, I'm telling you." Okay, so then the next year happens, right? We go into whatever that is, 2011, 2012. Jay Cutler gets hurt. Bears are riding. They're 7-3. They're looking like a team that can contend for a Super Bowl. Caleb Haney comes in, and it all goes down the drain. Like they lost 3 straight games, I think, to AFC East or West opponents against the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Tim Tebow game, if you remember. And then they lost a game to the Chiefs, where the Chiefs started Tyler Palko. They lost that game to the Chiefs 10-3. Caleb Haney couldn't get more than a field goal against a Chiefs team that I'm pretty sure went
really bad before Alex Smith.
I gotta look up their record, but it was like I want to say they finished 2-14 that year. That was the 2-14 year before Andy Reid came. It was 2-14 in that 2012 season. So I'm apologizing now. That's the year before. That was 2011. They beat the Bears. They finished 7-9. But to that point, they weren't a good team. They started Tyler Palko. They only lost that game because they completed a Hail Mary at the end of the game. And Caleb Haney just choked that season away completely. Like all the Bears really needed to do was win 1 or 2 more games to get into the playoffs. And we lost 3 straight games to a Tim Tebow-led Broncos team that somehow made the playoffs. They weren't very good. And then you look at the
Steelers.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, they lost to the Raiders in horrible fashion, lost to the Chiefs. Like every single game was lost in horrible fashion. And almost all the blame of that loss can be attributed to the poor play of Caleb Haney. So Caleb Haney is just the epitome of bad Bears quarterbacks, and he fits the stereotype of fans calling for the backup to start over the clearly more talented starter. So I just feel like he is the epitome of a Bears quarterback in history.
I think Blake has a personal vendetta against Caleb.
Oh, I do. I do.
But a great big board there. And of course, you guys know we're going to be tweeting that out later in the week as well. You guys can vote and, give your input into the worst quarterbacks from the Bears that you have experienced. Your list could be the same, different, whatever. But with that said, guys, that closes out our show. We might have something later in the week about the Senior Bowl with some interviews, hopefully. If not, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with some more Chicago content. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk soon. Here now.